everyone. Welcome to the Globe podcast. I'm here today with a very exciting guest. I have Dr. Michael Crabtree here with me today, who is the product innovation lead at Bioenergy Life Sciences. And I am super excited to speak with him. But for those of you who are new here, we are Tailored Marketing and we help health, wellness, and longevity businesses grow through strategic marketing and sales strategy. So if you are interested, drop a comment below. Thank you so much for coming on. I would love if you would just go ahead and give a little bit of an introduction so the listeners know who you are.
Hi, I am Michael Crabtree, trained as a natural products physician and scientist. I'm the GM and scientific innovation lead at BLS in Valen Labs, which is located in Andover, Minnesota. I've been in the industry about 13 years, so building up a pretty good resume at this point, working with various kinds of products. So thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Cool. And so I would love for you to just kind of tell me a little bit more about what you all are currently working on at BLS and what kind of innovations that you all are working on.
Sure. Well, right now, so just to give a little context, we've been in this business that is Bioenergy Incorporated in some form, has been in the natural products business since the late 90s. We have been building out various kinds of sports performance supplements around a product called D-Ribose, which is a 5-carbon sugar building block of ATP. When you take it, you kind of like creatine almost, you recover more quickly. So we've been innovating and synergizing, creating synergistic combinations, cosmetics, beverages, capsules, tablets, gums, chews, gummies, etc., in any number of combinations. Since that point, what we have been working on at this probably the last 7 years, is figuring out how to apply the capacities of D-Ribose and its ability to assist sort of biology with recovering ATP. How does that particularly influence the bioavailability of other water-soluble ingredients? And how does it serve also as a meaningful precursor or a co-crystal for to actually co-form or bond together two substances so that you can actually alter the physical characteristics of old, very well-established products like nicotinamide or ascorbic acid or quercetin. We can physically use them as co-formers in a physical co-crystallization process, enhancing solubility, bioavailability, without having to make major chemical changes by adding, high-energy phosphates or something to try to enhance the stability of PFCs is very common.
Yeah.
But this is a much easier situation. So working on first of all, D-Ribose, then D-Ribose and its combinations, and then particularly looking at the way that D-Ribose enhances the solubility of water-soluble vitamins, emphasis on B vitamins and ascorbic acid.
Very cool. That's super awesome. And so how did you all kind of get started in this space? It sounds like you have kind of a wide range of different products now that kind of do similar things, but what was the first product that really brought you into this space?
Well, D-Ribose is our classical ingredient. So the first patents on D-Ribose oral use reformed all the way back in the 1980s. From the 1980s into the early 2000s, the company, this is of course before my employment, but the company was very much focused on sports nutrition. And we really just did one thing. We did D-Ribose as an oral use dietary supplement and a medical food, which was called Corvalin, which was a combination of D-Ribose and magnesium, which was used to treat patients with any kind of energy deficiencies in the heart. So people that have difficulties and difficulties with diastolic function or have had a myocardial infarction can take D-Ribose and it can actually assist that person in recovering their energy levels after activity, specifically during cardiac rehab, right? It becomes very important that the rehabee has plenty of energy to get themselves through treadmill and so on as they transition back into a healthy exercise regimen. So after that, doing dozens of studies on D-Ribose, we moved into what we realized in about 2014 or 2015 is that there was a burgeoning anti-aging and cellular senescence, a market that was coming up, especially around a biomarker called NAD. And because we had some information previously as a part of our patent base and studies that showed that D-Ribose itself enhanced NAD+, we decided to take a little closer look and to see if we could develop a product that was capable of competing directly with nicotinamide riboside, which is niacinamide and ribose. That's what NR is, bound together by a chloride salt, and NMN eventually. So we entered into that space using D-Ribose and its combinations. We studied it for about 18 months across a variety of animal models, trying to figure out what the optimal ratio of the ribose to the nicotinamide was. Throughout that process, we realized that not only can you optimize the relationship between D-ribose and nicotinamide, which physically enhances the properties of the B3, but that this was also occurring in B1, B6, B3, B2, and all of the water-soluble vitamins, save for those that are responsible for 1-carbon metabolism. And so we just then embarked on this process, creating a product called RiboVite, which is designed really to take a shot at limiting the fortification requirements of B vitamins across the array of products. If you know anything about B1 and B6, we know that thiamine and pyroxidin are used to fortify all kinds of industrial, foodstuffs, and on and on and on. There's tons of B vitamins in beverages, energy drinks, all this kind of thing. They're just kind of almost implicit.
Yeah.
The problem is that especially pyridoxine toxicity is a real thing. So when you add ribose to these water-soluble B vitamins, you actually have to use much less of them to get the same kind of coenzymatic activity in the case of pyridoxine in terms of P5P. So it's interesting that it modulates these properties of these water-soluble B vitamins, and it has to do with its mechanism. But I think that there are lots of applications that can be used it for. So using then that as an understanding, getting into the NAD space, the anti-aging space, cellular senescence space, we've been into cosmetics with it, and then realizing that actually we can take the nicotinamide and its patented relationship to D-ribose, but we can actually take the nicotinamide and we can physically, through a process of melt extrusion, form these novel co-crystals out of all sorts of things that previously were thought to be pretty insoluble, like a quercetin, for example. It's a wonderful antioxidant, but it's not particularly bioavailable. Well, it turns out, as you use it as a co-former with nicotinamide, you actually change the physical characteristics of the molecule itself, giving it enhanced solubility and enhanced bioavailability. Those two things are not one-to-one, but they're definitely related. The more soluble you can make something in general in natural products, the better bioavailability it will have. And moving from quercetin and ascorbic acid, which are very well-known, very well-studied grass-type ingredients, moving into more exotic relationships like in apigenin, imodin, and luteolin, and a variety of other plant product polyphenols that are used for antioxidant purposes, and really creating some exotic co-crystals that are much more shelf stable than their individual counterparts and are more soluble than their individual. So actually enhancing the activity of these well-known products. So it's kind
Very,
of
very cool. Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. And so with the products too, like especially the newer ones that y'all are coming out with, like can you speak like a little bit more to kind of like the benefits of what they can offer to people that are taking them? Obviously, I'm sure it's kind of a little bit different based on each different product. So if you can talk to that a little bit more.
Yeah, well, D-ribose fundamentally is known to assist the body in recovering its ATP levels. And it's only been really recently in the last couple of years that we've really elucidated some of the really fine mechanism by which it acts through AMPK, which was not known 30 years ago when they first started this work.
Yeah.
But with its counterpart and its combinations, its first combination that we patented is called RiaJev, which is a specific ratio between D-ribose and vitamin B3 that's called RiaJev. That's specifically our optimized B3 NAD booster that provides both substrate for NAD and substrate for the salvage pathway. In terms of the PRPP, we need R5P structurally to create the NAD+. You also need the B3. So we are giving both of those components, optimizing the NAD salvage pathway. And then what do we say the health benefits are? Well, of course, we have increased NAD+ and ATP that is kind of known, enhancing glutathione, specifically reduced glutathione, lowering circulating salivary cortisol in as little as like maybe 3 or 4 days. It works very well to do this, enhancing the entire NAD+ metabolome. So that's not just NAD+, but NADH, NADP+, NADPH, you get some of all of these effects. Also enhancing PGC1 alpha syntrate and a marker called citrate synthase, which indicates that the actual mechanism of B3 and ribose, when mixed together, are causing a process that is called mitochondrial biogenesis. So mitochondria are actually going through this process of oscillating between fusion and fission, in a sense. And this product creates this set of conditions that mimics a calorie-reduced state and ends up with more mitochondria being active inside of the cell. So more energy, more antioxidant capacity, and more mitochondria means that the cell has greater resilience in whatever the conditions of stress that you might be dealing with, whether it's exercise or just stress. So that's
Yeah.
kind of an overview of the mechanism.
So basically, then the main benefit is going to be that you're going to be able to recover faster from whatever that may be, whether that's, like you said, exercise, like mental fatigue, even, or yeah, so just faster recovery overall, which is, yeah, resilience, like longevity. I feel like that's what we all want, like we want to be able to, whether you're going hiking or you're working out every day or you're working really hard at like creating a new business, like everybody wants to be able to go at that same pace for as long as they can.
Yeah, exactly right. The older you get, some of these parameters begin to drop as early as your third and fourth decade. I mean, by your fourth decade, sometimes it's been noted that even glutathione can be cut in half. So you
Wow.
have all of these cellular metabolic metrics that just simply decline over time. What we can do, though, is we can provide the adequate substrates that put a cell in the position that it would have been in a more youthful state, and then of course mimic the youthful state by protecting DNA, by protecting it from reactive oxygen species, by giving it more energy in the form of ATP and the ability to move that energy around, which is what NAD plus is. ATP is kind of the energy currency. NAD plus is what shuttles it around, in particular into mitochondria. So you need both of those things. And this has been optimized, this product has been optimized to modulate that salvage pathway directly. But it's really a whole metabolic solution. I mean, what we have with NAD plus precursors right now is usually they make a claim about, NR, NMN's ability to do X, Y, and Z, and that's where they stop. They don't discuss the actual pharmacokinetics and the mechanism by which your body utilizes them, because they have kind of listed them as these privileged precursors that have their own individual mechanisms and that they survive the digestive process. When you put anything in your mouth, of course, it gets digested into its component parts, especially dietary supplements. Well, NMN and NR both get digested into their component parts. So while they're being digested, you have to kind of consider the question, what are they when they are ingested and what are they as they are absorbed? Those are two different things. So they're ingested as NR and NMN, but they're absorbed as largely nicotinamide and ribose.
Okay.
Even in those NAD precursors, there is a relationship between D-Ribose and nicotinamide in both NR and NMN. What we have done with this product is say, okay, we know that if you're going to make an oral use anti-aging or NAD plus cellular stress product, we know that it's going to be digested into its component parts, right? And we know that through those component parts, it gets absorbed as ribose and nicotinamide. What we're going to do is study varying ratios of D-ribose to nicotinamide and identify, is it a 2-to-1? Is it a 3-to-1? Is it all the way up to a 10-to-1? What is that optimal relationship between these two ingredients that supercharges and synergizes all of these downstream effects? And that's what we've done with Rija.
Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. That's really cool. And so you all have different products as well that like you can kind of, like you were talking about an oral one, like is there kind of a most popular one that like people prefer how to take it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It definitely is. That's a good question, because there is an optimal way to take an NAD booster. There really is. The conversation throughout the history of the NAD space, which I've been involved in almost since it became very popular 10 years ago or so, the conversation has always been which one of these NAD plus precursors makes the most NAD plus. Okay, which one can you take and then measure in human whole blood? Which one of them is going to drive the greatest absolute quantity of NAD plus in the blood? But what we have learned is that is the wrong question to ask if we're talking about what is best from the point of view of a consumer. And the question that we need to ask is, how can you increase NAD plus to a moderate degree, but then how can we sustain that increase in NAD plus over a very extended period of time so that your body can have the benefits of this additional resilience and capacity for biological adaptation, recovery from exercise? Because what we have right now are products that are very, very good, and I mean to say NR and NMN are very, very good at raising NAD plus absolute, but that also then tail off after about, probably in some cases as early as 3 to 4 weeks, they will tail off. So you have this kind of enzyme saturation component of NAD plus that then prevents its long-term use. So what we have done to answer your question is we have engineered this into a sustained release vegetable matrix, utilizing a group. Our manufacturing partners are probably the world's best experts on slow release vitamin B3. So they have built their entire history for 40 or 50 years on studying the kinetics, the pharmacokinetics of a slow release niacin, nicotinamide, nicotinic acid, inositol hexamonophosphate, whatever version of B3 that it is. So we took their knowledge and married it together with our understanding of ribose and its relationship to nicotinamide, and stuck it in this kind of perfect 8 to 12 hour extended release platform, so that we're controlling the way that the body then leaches these substrates into the, and you end up not triggering necessarily these feedback mechanisms that occur when you spike blood levels of NAD. If you take NMN or NR, it's definitely going to work for you, but the question is for how long? And the question also in the case of NMN is, are there serious problems with the accumulation of NR, for example, in the kidney, which has been shown in dog models. It's been shown just recently in a biosensor model. Long-term use of NMN is questionable as far as safety is concerned from my point of view and from the point of view of many other scientists in the industry. So I think NMN should not be used as a dietary supplement personally, but that's just my opinion. I do not deny that it is effective at increasing NAD in whole blood. It's just that we don't really know what other adverse events may be associated with it long term. That standard release, that extended release platform has really been one of our contributions to the NAD space. And if you're asking me how to talk about how someone should optimally take it, I think that an extended release product is almost always a better consideration under any natural product supplementation situation.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so for the extended release too, like would you still need to take it every day, but like the benefits will just last longer basically, or do you not have to take it every day?
You do, I would recommend taking at least once a day, but it lets you less of the product and get the benefits of it all throughout the day.
Okay.
You have kind of, you're controlling and stabilizing the amount of free niacinamide and ribose that are in your blood at any given time. And with any luck, our data that we're coming out with here in the next 6 or 10 weeks is going to tell us, 6 to 10 weeks, is going to tell us that we have as the product gets used in human beings versus NR, that NR tails off faster and our sustained release product kind of continues out over the course of 8 to 10 to or even 12 weeks. Because that's
super cool.
What like some of our original data looked at, is that the area under the curve for NR might be a little higher in the first few hours or few days, but over an extended period of time, by truly controlling the pharmacokinetic release of the product, you end up with a longer term benefit, because there really isn't any major biological benefit to spiking your NAD plus levels and then letting them drift off, and sometimes often ending up lower than you originally started. Actually, spiking NAD plus was shown by a Greek group in 2016 and 2018, is that at a certain point, too much NAD plus actually reduces the exercise capacity of rats in a swim test, in a swim maze.
Wow.
So then that means that we at least have an indication that there is a optimal by percentage, let's say a human being that has an optimal percentage of increase of NAD plus, and it should not go further past than that. So that's the conversation we want to kind of introduce into the NAD plus space. What is optimal? And particularly now that we know that the gut microbiome is such a huge player in vitamin transformation, and in particular with vitamin B3, what is the gut microbiome status of each person? And based upon that gut microbiome status, what is your best precursor? Because it isn't always going to be NMN, NR, Ryajev, just good old-fashioned niacin. There's going to be a version of this for NAD boosting capabilities that is best for everybody. That is what has to be identified, I think, in this industry, rather than just saying NAD plus is going to make you age less fast. I mean, that just doesn't, that's not true.
Yeah. It's almost like, too, I mean, there's so many now, like natural product companies, supplement companies, all of these different companies that they're, trying to sell, obviously, their products and stuff. And a lot of them maybe are making like almost like false claims and stuff, or they're not super science backed with what they're saying. And so the industry has just kind of, I feel like, strayed a little bit from the actual science. So I love that you are very science backed, and like that you're like, this is what's best for people. And we've done a lot of research, and we're continuing to do research to really show that this is what you should be doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had a lot of advancements analytically over the last 5 years. So there are things that we can do now that we couldn't do before. And one of those things that we can do now is we can use the decentralized approach to science. Most of the history, at least in my career, the history of the natural products industry is really controlled in terms of scientific capacity, is really controlled through the use of contract research organizations, CROs. Well, what we have decided and what we have developed over the last few years is the ability to do a lot of our own analytical work. And we have developed an actual home test kit, a home blood test kit that uses a dry blood assay, which is just a finger prick, kind of like you would test your blood glucose if you happen to be a type 2 diabetic, or type 1 for that matter. But just a finger prick on filter paper that dries, roll it up into a FedEx mailer envelope, send it back to us, and we can actually examine your systemic NAD, circulating NAD plus in whole blood using that little dry blood assay. Yeah, and it's very, very easy to do. It makes it very simple. You don't have to draw a 10 microliter of blood minimum. You don't have to run it through LCMS. We have developed a bioluminescent assay to really make this NAD plus measurement much easier, much more accessible to the consumer, because the consumer does want to know. It's very, very powerful from a marketing point. It's very powerful to show a consumer, here is what your NAD plus level is, and after you have used the product for 14 days, here's what it is now. And we've had great success communicating the efficacy of not just our products, because we are BLS and Valen Labs. We're a raw material supplier. We're also a manufacturer of our own private label line.
Okay.
But also then working with our customer partners who are purchasing the bulk material from us and essentially designing consumer-oriented clinical trials that allow them to justify their marketing claims, and taking care of that for a fraction of the cost that would be necessary if they were to go through a classical CRO. And if you can get that kind of powerful marketing material and data to both justify claims and communicate an A+ content to your customers for, say, $30,000 versus $300,000, well, that leaves you quite a lot more money than to pump into your advertising machine and feed the beast on Amazon. So that's what we have worked on. It is a lot of novel approaches to the measurement of NAD+ and making it accessible to the consumer too.
That's super, super awesome. Where is the best place for people to find you, the best place for people to find BLS, or also your other brand? I will include all the links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you links too. But if you just go on to Amazon and you type in the search bar Valen Labs, you'll come up with our array of NAD plus boosting, optimized NAD plus boosting products, both in sustained release and non-sustained release. We have NAD to go flavored powder. Otherwise, you can take a look at our company at bioenergylifesciences.com, or my NAD plus, spelled out MYNAD.com. That is also updated on a regular basis, updates about the product. It's where we share educational components with consumers or anybody else who might be interested. So that's where I would start. Okay. And if you want to reach out to me, then you can do that through the website. If you go onto bioenergylifesciences.com, you can fill out a form. We can send you samples, and eventually the message will get to me.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking more about everything that y'all are doing. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it.